Excuse me, sir. Can you step outside with me for a moment?
I'm sorry? Is there a problem, officer? I'm having breakfast with my daughter.
Outside, now. I need to verify your relationship with this child.
Officer, this is my daughter. We're having breakfast. If you have questions, you can ask him here, but I'm not leaving my 7-year-old alone in a booth.
Your daughter.
Right.
No, Judge Hayes! He comes here every month with his daughter. This is insane. You need to let him go.
Officer, I know Judge Hayes. He comes here every month with his daughter. This is insane.
Daddy,
You need
no!
to let him go.
Why is he taking you? You didn't do anything wrong!
The little girl is maybe 7 years old, blonde pigtails, pink jacket, chocolate chip pancakes in front of her, laughing at something the man across the table just said. The man is black, mid-40s, wearing weekend casual jeans, a sweater, wire-rimmed glasses. He's cutting her pancakes into smaller pieces, the universal gesture of a parent managing a child's breakfast. They're in a booth by the window at Martha's Diner in a small town in Ohio on a Saturday morning in October. Sunlight streams through the glass. Other families are scattered across the restaurant. Couples with coffee, elderly regulars reading newspapers, teenagers on phones. It's the kind of scene Norman Rockwell would paint. Peaceful, American, unremarkable, until Officer Derek Morse walks through the door, sees a black man sitting with a white child, and decides something is wrong. What happens in the next 18 minutes will cost the city $1.1 million, end Officer Morse's career, and become required viewing in bias training seminars across the country. Because the man cutting pancakes isn't a kidnapper. He's Judge Michael Hayes, a sitting family court judge in the county, having breakfast with his daughter Emma on the one Saturday morning a month he doesn't have court obligations. And the body camera on Officer Morse's chest is about to record every word of what happens when assumption meets authority and loses catastrophically. If you've ever been looked at like you don't belong somewhere you have every right to be, hit subscribe. Because what Officer Morse does to Judge Hayes in that diner booth will make you understand exactly why bias training exists and why accountability has to mean something real. Judge Michael Hayes was 46 years old, appointed to the county family court bench 8 years earlier after 15 years as a prosecutor and family law attorney. He was one of 3 black judges in the county. He lived in a modest colonial in the suburbs with his wife Rachel, who was white, a high school English teacher. They had 2 children, Emma, 7, and Marcus Jr., 10. Emma had her mother's blonde hair and blue eyes. Marcus Jr. had his father's darker complexion. Judge Hayes handled custody disputes, adoption cases, child welfare hearings. He'd presided over more than 2,000 family law cases. He was known for his patience, his fairness, and his belief that every child deserved stability regardless of their parents' circumstances. He wore a suit to court 5 days a week. On Saturdays, he wore jeans and took his daughter to breakfast while Rachel took Marcus Jr. to soccer practice. It was their routine, one-on-one parent time with each child. This Saturday was Emma's turn. Officer Derek Morse was 38, 12 years with the Riverside Police Department, a medium-sized force serving a mostly white suburban community outside Cleveland. His personnel file contained 9 civilian complaints over 12 years. Excessive force allegations, bias complaints, aggressive traffic stops of people of color. All had been investigated internally and dismissed with nothing more than verbal counseling. He had a reputation among other officers as someone who had a nose for trouble, which in practice meant he stopped people who looked, to him, like they didn't belong. His body camera had been involved in 3 prior incidents where his conduct was questioned. Each time, the camera footage had been used to defend him. This time, it would destroy him. The diner security camera shows Judge Hayes and Emma entering at 9:47 a.m., getting seated in a booth by the window, ordering pancakes for Emma, omelet for the judge, coffee, and orange juice. Emma is animated, talking about school, about her upcoming birthday party, about wanting a hamster even though mom said no. Judge Hayes listens, responds, laughs, cuts her pancakes when they arrive. He's wearing jeans, a navy sweater, his wire-rimmed glasses. He looks like what he is, a professional on his weekend, spending time with his daughter. The diner is moderately busy. No one pays them any attention. It's 10:14 a.m. when Officer Morse's patrol car pulls into the parking lot. The body camera activates when Morse enters the diner. The footage shows his perspective walking through the door, scanning the interior. His gaze lands on Judge Hayes and Emma in the booth by the window and stops. He stares for approximately 4 seconds. Then he walks directly toward them, his hand moving to rest on his duty belt near his weapon. Other diners look up, noticing. The judge doesn't see him approaching initially. He's focused on Emma, who's telling him about something that happened at recess. "Excuse me, sir." Morse's voice cuts through the diner's ambient noise. "Can you step outside with me for a moment?" Judge Hayes looks up, surprised. The body camera captures his face perfectly. Confusion. A man interrupted mid-conversation with his daughter, not yet understanding what's happening. "I'm sorry? Outside. Now. I need to speak with you." Morse's hand is still on his belt. His posture is aggressive. The judge's confusion deepens. His voice is calm, measured. The voice of someone who spends his days maintaining order in courtrooms. "Is there a problem, officer? I'm having breakfast with my daughter. I need to verify your relationship with this child," Morse says. "Step outside." The diner goes quiet. Other patrons are watching now. Emma's face shows she knows something is wrong but doesn't understand what. "Daddy?" Judge Hayes puts his hand gently on Emma's shoulder. His face still calm but his eyes hardening. "Officer, this is my daughter. We're having breakfast. If you have questions, you can ask them here, but I'm not leaving my 7-year-old alone in a booth." "Your daughter," Morse repeats, skepticism dripping from the words. "Sir, step outside or I'll have to insist more firmly." Judge Hayes's jaw tightens. The body camera shows him making a decision. "Stay calm. Manage this carefully. Don't escalate in front of Emma." "Officer, my name is Michael Hayes. This is my daughter Emma Hayes. We live at 247 Oakmont Drive. My wife is Rachel Hayes. Emma's brother is with my wife at soccer practice right now. I'm a family court judge in this county. If you need to verify any of that, I'm happy to provide identification, but I'm asking you to lower your voice because you're frightening my daughter." Morse doesn't lower his voice. "I don't care who you say you are. I need to verify this child's safety." A concerned citizen reported seeing a black man with a white child and thought it looked suspicious. The words hang in the air like a grenade. The diner is completely silent now. Judge Hayes stares at Officer Morse, and for the first time, the body camera captures the judge's expression shifting from confusion to comprehension to barely controlled fury. A concerned citizen reported seeing a black man with a white child looked suspicious. Judge Hayes speaks very slowly, very clearly, each word measured. "Officer Morse, what you just said is that someone saw a black man having breakfast with a white child and called the police. And you responded to that call by approaching us and demanding I leave my daughter to step outside. Do I have that correct?" "That's correct," Morse says, apparently not hearing the problem. "And I'm going to need to see identification proving your relationship to this child." Judge Hayes pulls out his wallet, extracts his driver's license, and holds it up. The body camera captures it clearly. Michael Hayes, address matching what he stated, photo matching the man in the booth. "Now what?" the judge asks. "That doesn't prove she's your daughter." Emma, suddenly frightened and close to tears, speaks up in a small voice. "Daddy, I'm scared. Why is he being mean?" Judge Hayes puts his arm around her, pulls her close, his voice gentle for her even as his eyes remain locked on Morse. "Baby, it's okay. This officer made a mistake. He's gonna leave us alone now so we can finish breakfast." But Morse doesn't leave. He steps closer to the booth. "Sir, I'm gonna need you to stand up and step outside. This is your final warning." "For what charge?" Judge Hayes asks, his voice dropping into the tone he uses in court when he's about to shut down a frivolous motion. "What crime have I committed? What reasonable suspicion do you have to detain me? You're being uncooperative. That's suspicious behavior. I'm asserting my Fourth Amendment rights while having breakfast with my daughter." Judge Hayes corrects him. "That's not suspicious. That's constitutional. You've seen my identification. I've explained who I am. I've explained my relationship to this child. You have no legal basis to detain me. Now please leave us alone." Morse's hand moves to his handcuffs. "Stand up or I'll arrest you for obstruction." Emma starts crying. Other diners are pulling out phones. An older white woman at a nearby table speaks up, her voice sharp. "Officer, this is ridiculous. He's clearly having breakfast with his daughter. Leave them alone. Morse ignores her. Sir, last chance. Stand up. Judge Hayes makes another decision. He kisses Emma on the forehead, whispers something to her, and slides out of the booth, standing. His hands are visible at his sides, non-threatening. I'm standing. I'm complying. I want you to know that every second of this is being recorded. You are violating my constitutional rights in front of my 7-year-old daughter because someone called in a report about a black man with a white child. You should be ashamed. Turn around, Morse orders. Hands behind your back. The body camera shows Judge Hayes slowly turning, placing his hands behind his back, his face visible in profile. Absolute controlled rage. The handcuffs click shut. Emma is sobbing in the booth. The older woman who spoke up earlier moves to sit with her, pulling Emma close, glaring at Morse. It's okay, sweetie. It's okay. Your daddy didn't do anything wrong. The diner manager, a middle-aged white man, rushes over. Officer, I know Judge Hayes. He comes here every month with his daughter. This is insane. You need to let him go. Judge Hayes, do you know this man? Yes, the manager says. He's a county judge. Everyone in town knows him. You're making a huge mistake. Morse hesitates. The body camera captures it, the first flicker of doubt crossing his face. But he's too far in now. Pride, ego, authority, all of it pushing him forward. I'm taking him in for questioning. You can't just arrest a judge for having breakfast with his daughter, the manager protests. Watch me, Morse says. He walks Judge Hayes toward the door, one hand on the judge's arm, the other on his duty belt. The judge doesn't resist, doesn't pull away. But his voice carries across the diner, clear and sharp. Emma, Daddy loves you. Miss Martha is going to call Mom. I'll see you very soon. This officer made a terrible mistake and he's going to regret it. They exit the diner. The parking lot security camera captures the next sequence. Morse walking the judge to his patrol car, opening the back door, placing the judge inside, the judge seated in handcuffs, in jeans and a sweater, his expression visible through the window. Ice-cold fury. Inside the diner, the manager is on the phone with the judge's wife, Rachel. The older woman is comforting Emma, who's still crying. Other diners are recording, posting to social media, calling family members. Within 10 minutes, the video is spreading. Black judge arrested in diner while having breakfast with his daughter. At the police station, Morse brings Judge Hayes into an interrogation room. The judge sits, still in handcuffs, saying nothing. Morse opens a folder, tries to start questioning. The judge cuts him off. I'm invoking my right to remain silent and my right to an attorney. I will not answer questions. The only thing I will say is this. I'm a sitting family court judge in this county. You arrested me in front of my 7-year-old daughter because someone reported seeing a black man with a white child. You didn't verify the call. You didn't investigate. You saw us and assumed criminality. That decision will cost you your career. Morse's face hardens. We'll see about that. The door opens. Not a supervisor. The police chief, a woman named Susan Martinez, enters with Rachel Hayes and a lawyer from the ACLU. Chief Martinez's face is ashen. She looks at Judge Hayes in handcuffs and closes her eyes. Get those off him. Now. Morse protests. Chief, I was responding to a suspicious person's call. You arrested a sitting judge for having breakfast with his daughter. Martinez cuts him off. Get them off. The handcuffs come off at 11:03 a.m., 49 minutes after Morse first approached the booth. Judge Hayes rubs his wrists, stands, and faces Chief Martinez. I want him charged. Criminally. False arrest. Deprivation of rights under color of law. This wasn't a mistake. This was bias with a badge. Rachel Hayes, in tears, hugs her husband. Emma? She's okay, Rachel says. She's with Mrs. Patterson from the diner. She's scared and confused but physically fine. The judge's voice drops. She watched her father be handcuffed and taken away because a cop saw a black man with a white child and assumed kidnapping. She's 7 years old. How do I explain that? Judge Hayes was driven home by Chief Martinez personally, arriving at noon. Emma ran to him, threw her arms around him, wouldn't let go. The video from the diner was already viral. By evening, it had 3 million views. By the next morning, news crews were camped outside the police station. The investigation started immediately. The concerned citizen call was traced. It came from a woman named Margaret Flynn, a resident of the town, who'd seen Judge Hayes and Emma through the diner window from the parking lot and called 911 to report a suspicious black man with a white child who seemed uncomfortable. Emma had been laughing and eating pancakes. Flynn had decided discomfort based on race alone. The 911 call recording was released. Flynn's voice on the tape: "I just think it's strange. You don't usually see that. I thought someone should check." The operator had asked if the child appeared distressed. Flynn admitted she didn't know but thought it was worth reporting. The criminal charges against Morse came from the county prosecutor, who happened to appear regularly in Judge Hayes's courtroom and was horrified. False arrest, deprivation of civil rights under color of law, official misconduct. The civil lawsuit was filed 2 weeks later by Judge Hayes and his family. Named defendants: Officer Morse, the Riverside Police Department, and the City of Riverside. The complaint was devastating. It detailed the arrest, the trauma to Emma, the public humiliation, and the systematic failure of the department to discipline Morse for 12 years of bias complaints. It included statements from 9 people who'd been in the diner, all describing the scene as disturbing and racially motivated. The trial happened 9 months later. The jury, diverse, local, including 3 parents of young children, watched the body camera footage and the diner security footage side by side. They saw Morse enter, scan the room, fixate on Judge Hayes and Emma, approach aggressively. They heard, "A black man with a white child looked suspicious." They saw Emma crying as her father was handcuffed. They heard Judge Hayes calmly identifying himself, offering ID, explaining the situation. They saw Morse ignore all of it. Judge Hayes testified, still composed, still measured, but the pain underneath was visible. "I've been a judge for 8 years. I've handled hundreds of cases involving children. I've worked to keep families together, to protect kids, to ensure they're safe. And in that diner, I couldn't protect my own daughter from being traumatized because an officer looked at us and saw a problem based purely on our skin colors. She still has nightmares. She asks me why the policeman was mad at me. How do I explain racism to a 7-year-old? Rachel Hayes testified about getting the call from the diner manager, about racing to the police station, about finding Emma in the diner crying and asking if Daddy was going to jail. Emma didn't testify, she was too young. But the defense waived objection to a recorded interview with a child psychologist. In the video, Emma described feeling scared, not understanding why the policeman was mean to Daddy, and now being afraid of police officers. The courtroom was silent watching it. The psychologist testified about trauma, about the impact on children who witness parental arrest, about Emma's ongoing anxiety. The diner manager testified about knowing Judge Hayes, about the ridiculousness of the arrest, about other diners' reactions. The older woman who comforted Emma testified about watching the scene unfold and feeling disgusted. 9 other diner patrons testified, each describing the incident as shocking and racially motivated. The defense tried to argue Morse was following protocol for welfare checks on children, but the prosecution destroyed it. The protocol requires evidence of distress or danger. Emma was eating pancakes and laughing. The only evidence was a caller who thought a black man with a white child looked strange. Expert witnesses on racial bias in policing testified about patterns, about how bias manifests in split-second decisions, about how Morse's 12-year complaint history showed a pattern the department ignored. The jury deliberated 6 hours. Guilty on all counts against Morse. Liable for the department and city. The damages, $1.1 million. $350,000 compensatory to the Hayes family. $750,000 punitive against the city and Morse personally. The verdict included a consent decree requiring bias training, body camera review protocols, and civilian oversight for all discrimination complaints. Morse was terminated. He appealed. The appeal was denied. He attempted to find work in other departments. His name was too well known. His career was over. Margaret Flynn, the concerned citizen, faced no legal consequences but became a pariah in the community. Her name was public record from the 911 call. Restaurants refused to serve her. Neighbors shunned her. She moved away 6 months later. The city implemented new protocols requiring supervisors to review all calls based purely on suspicious racial combinations before officers respond. Judge Hayes continued on the bench. He used part of the settlement to create a legal defense fund for people wrongfully detained due to racial bias. Emma, now years older, still remembers that morning but has been through therapy and is healing. The family still goes to Martha's Diner, though not as often. When they do, other patrons sometimes recognize them and nod with respect. Years later, asked if $1.1 million felt like justice, Judge Hayes was thoughtful. The money funds important work. But justice would have been Emma never seeing her father handcuffed for having breakfast with her. What we got was accountability, and a permanent record that what Officer Morse did was wrong. The body camera footage is used in police academies nationwide. It shows exactly how bias becomes criminality when given a badge. One officer learned a $1 million lesson. One family carries trauma they shouldn't have to carry. And somewhere, every day, someone looks at a scene that defies their assumptions about who belongs together and has to choose whether to criminalize it or examine their bias. Should officers who make arrests based purely on racial assumptions face mandatory criminal prosecution? Comment below. Because what happened to Judge Hayes wasn't about child safety. It was about an officer who saw a black man with a white child and decided that was suspicious enough to justify handcuffs. If you believe bias with a badge deserves consequences, subscribe. Tomorrow we cover another case where someone's assumptions cost them everything while nearly destroying an innocent person's life.